Hi, Eagle Spitz for Punk for the Homeless. We're doing something different today. We're not doing a Desert Island vids. We're doing an interview and some readings with actor, writer, director, poet and teacher, Tony Stowers. Hello, Tony. How are you, mate?
Hello, Eagle. Not bad. Not bad, thank you. Life in France is a little bit more relaxed than life in England at the minute, from what I see on the news.
Yeah, and a little bit more relaxed than in the States, I think, as well.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, from what I've also seen on the news.
You just mentioned you're living in France.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but quite a bit of your writing is set in the UK?
50-50.
50-50, yeah? So tell us a little bit about your writing and how you got into that.
I come from a working class family in the northeast of England, in Darlington. There was nothing in school or education that really pointed to the fact that I wanted to be a writer. It's just something I decided I wanted to do when I was about 12 or 13 years old, when an English teacher said, hey, you know, you're good at something, which is what most kids want to hear at that age. They want to hear somebody telling them that they're good at something.
Yeah.
But because I didn't come from a family where education is really, I wouldn't say respected, but education didn't seem like a job option, you know, university and that type of thing. I didn't really have the confidence to take it up as a career. So at 15, 16, I ended up working in an apprenticeship for 2 years, but then got sacked because I was daydreaming all the time about, you know, a better life, a better world. So once I was unemployed, which was about 1981, I just decided from that moment, right, on my passport, that's what it's going to say from now on. I don't care if I don't sell any books. I don't care what people think of me, but that's what I want to be, a writer. And so I started writing, and perhaps like yourself, I was a young lad. I was born in the punk culture. We lived in a DIY culture. We weren't going to wait for anybody to give us permission to do what we were going to do. We just did it. That's how it was. So that's what I did. I started writing poems, started performing them, started writing theatre plays, started directing them. You could sit around waiting for something to happen, waiting to live your life, or you can go out and make your life. That's kind of what I did.
Excellent. You mentioned the DIY punk scene and stuff.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but you used to do a fanzine in the early days, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, in the early days, that was like 80, 84, 85, that kind of period. Post punk, more than punk. I think I wasn't old enough for punk. I was old enough for post punk. And in those days, as you know, we didn't have computers, we didn't have word processors, we didn't have cheap photocopies. Everything had to be done by hand. We had to print, we had to type things on typewriters and buy ribbons and paper, and we had stencils. And it was a long, slow, laborious process spreading information about. But I think if you're determined enough to want to spread information about, you'll find a way. And so even though it's easy to do that today, back then, for me, it was still relatively easy to do that because it's something I wanted to do. And having a fanzine was brilliant. It was a way of kind of opening doors to going to see bands, to getting free tickets to gigs, you know, and meeting new people and selling things. And I remember being in a pub in Newcastle. I think it was about December 1984, and this young lad came up to me in the pub and he said, "Here, do you want to buy this magazine?" And I said, "Well, what is it?" And he said, "It's called Viz."
All right.
Yeah, and I bought a copy, and me and my mate, we couldn't stop laughing for about a month. It was the funniest thing we'd ever seen. And at that time, Viz was really primitive. It was just sold literally through the pubs in Newcastle. That's how they first started out. And when we read that kind of changed everything. You know, we thought these guys are much better at doing fanzines, which is like anarchic fanzines, than we were. We were very serious. We did band reviews. We were vegans. We were anti-war, all that type of stuff. But the Viz guys,
all the good stuff, then.
Yeah, but the Viz guys just ripped the piss out of it, and they were brilliant, and they deserve it because they did something on a higher level, which I thought was brilliant, you know.
Excellent. So you reckon that Viz was funny, yeah? Is there humour in your stuff?
It was funny, yeah, but I think once Chris Donald sold it and it moved on to two other people, it kind of lost something somewhere, you know. Anyway, that's just my opinion. You know.
Yeah. Is there humour in your stuff?
There is, and there isn't. I try to just, I don't try to be clever. I don't try to be somebody that I'm not. I'm just a working class lad who had a very minimal education, didn't excel a lot, didn't go to university. And so I just try to focus on what I know, what I've been through, what I've experienced. But I think as a writer, if you're going to call yourself a writer anyway, you have to appeal to people. And one way of doing that, obviously, is to be honest and to be human and to try and make people laugh. But I can't say I actually sit down and try to make people laugh. I just try to tell the truth, you know.
Yeah, I'm a bit crap when I try to be funny. I mean, some of
Yeah.
my poems are funny because they're true life stories. But
Yeah, what makes yours funny, I think, for me, is the way you tell them, as Frank Carson said. It's the way you tell them that makes me laugh. Your poem about going to the Ruts gig and getting drunk on the train. I mean, it's just the deadpan delivery that gets me.
yeah, I got a bit of a reputation. I mean, obviously, I've been called Eagle since I was a kid, but the Spits came around because my early poetry was really venomous. And to be honest, I don't think I've changed that much. Venomous about different things, I think.
Yeah.
A bit like you, I don't know if you're still a vegan, but I'm a vegan anti-war.
Yeah.
I've been nicked on anti-war stuff and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, back to you. Would you like to do as a reading?
Well, this is from Gauguin's Ghost Story. If you look behind my head here, you can see this canvas, which is a collage of pictures which I butchered from 4 lovely books about impressionist artists in Paris 10 years ago. And in the process of writing the show about Gauguin, I also wrote a book about how I made the show. And this is the book, Gauguin's Ghost Story.
Excellent.
Chapter 4, page and a half. Look at these hands, artist's hands, artist's fingers, slender. What these hands have touched. What have these hands touched? These hands have touched the softest skin. They've stroked and caressed the textures of the raw meat of steak, the cooled, smooth bones of skeletons, the slippery scales of dead-eyed fish, and the down on summer peaches. These hands have been burnt and frozen. They've gripped the handle of axes and hammers with tenderness and love, and balanced brushes and pens with terrifying force. These fingers have pushed a lock of hair back from a beautiful face and held back a deadly thrust. Together, these fingers have rolled cigarettes, counted loose change, stirred coffee cups, added paste to a toothbrush, operated a million knives and forks, fastened belt buckles and shoelaces, untied ropes, manipulated keys in stubborn locks, pushed 100,000 buttons 100,000 times to change the view, made calls, opened doors, illuminated machines, typed a million keys, sent strangers to their doom or friends to their fate, and they've unclipped bra straps and zips and cut breasts and backsides. Curled into blocks of iron, these fingers have punched and hammered heads and doors. Talons extended, they've scratched and clawed faces, the sand, earth, and the ocean. They've picked up pins and undone threads, extracted splinters and nostril hairs, and run themselves through hair and fur. They've waved goodbye and shaken hands. Swollen with the pain of pouring 10 tons of metal or wood, they've been accidentally cut and sliced, banged indoors, bitten and stood on, scarred and blistered, and then cleaned by the waters of a million baths, showers, and sinks full of dirty soap. They've spoken with gestures, sending messages of love and messages of hate. They've scratched the body in every conceivable part it may itch, excavated snot and wax from ears and nose. They've held pens and tubes that they've applied war paint to ugly faces, cradled babies and coffin lids, offered open palms in surrender, and brought bodies to the brink of orgasm and into eternal sleep. Artists' hands work hard, and if they don't work hard, they're not artists' hands.
Good stuff indeed, sir.
Not bad, not bad. I've had my moments.
We connected through Attila Stockbroker. He sent you our way last year in that notorious 2020.
Yeah, because of the lockdown. Yeah.
Yeah, but since then you've got more involved with Rashid over in Sierra Leone, running the orphanage for 73 girls.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll explain a bit more about how you've got involved and what you've done for us.
What I've tried to do, it's all happened quite quickly, all this. So I've tried to adapt as quickly as I can. But obviously, I've had exchanges with him through Messenger and through Facebook. And I didn't quite understand the situation there until he really explained it, and you explained it more clearly for me. I believe in talents that people have, and often people don't know they have these talents. So my first impression was it's a bit crazy thinking about it now, but and it was naive perhaps in the beginning, but I'm better associated with it now. My first idea was fly out there, meet all the kids, meet Abdul, who's running the place, and his family, and rehearse the kids in a Midsummer Night's Dream by Shakespeare, and then perform it there. It doesn't, you have to understand, making theatre is really, really easy. You don't have to spend millions of pounds on making a good theatre production. And the idea was to actually involve them in a theatre production. Obviously, that would go around the world, and people could see what they were capable of doing. But also, maybe it's possible to put on a few shows in Sierra Leone, do something that's never been done before, perhaps. And for the orphanage to make a little bit of money from doing that, and as I've understood recently, working with you through this and understanding more. On the one hand, obviously, we're sending money to Abdul, and he's feeding the kids and clothing the kids and educating the kids. But at the end of the day, it's still charity. And I don't think anybody really likes charity. I think we have to take it. But I think what we'd rather have is the tools to make our own money, and the tools to feed ourselves, and the tools to educate ourselves. So my initial feeling was, wouldn't it be great to go out there and give these kids who've probably never seen anything like this before to do a Shakespeare play? And of course, English is the language out there, the second language perhaps, or the first language, I'm not sure. But anyway, wouldn't it be great to go out there, work on a theatre show, give them the idea that there is more to life than just the terrible future that they might be facing. And that would have been a great experience for me, and a great experience for them, and a great experience for everybody who watched it. Because my background from the year 1996 to 2006, the majority of theatre plays that I wrote were written for young audiences in the northeast of England, and I wrote, I can't remember how many, probably about 12 plays for kids. And my work was seen by about 100,000 kids in 10 years all over the north of England. So working with that age group is not a problem for me. And I think that's why I'm a teacher, because I have this belief in innate talent that everybody has. You just need to find a way to get that talent out. That's why I got involved with Abdul. So long story short, I'm sorry to take a long time to answer the question.
Oh, you're good, mate.
Long story short, I'm able to support myself here in France by being a teacher, and selling books online is quite a tricky thing to do anyway. So I just thought, well, if I can't do very good performances as a performance poet, because I don't have a lot of practice out here in the French-speaking world, what I thought of doing through you, and it's taken a bit of organising, and I must say thank you to my ex-wife Sue, who's in Nottingham. Without her, none of this would have been possible.
Well, Nottingham's a cool place to be.
Yeah, yeah. It's not far from you, actually, in Long Eaton, not far from you.
All right, yeah, I've done gigs there.
Yeah. So what we've done through Punk for the Homeless, with the help of Sue, is I've basically allocated 15 of my books, so that anybody who buys a copy of one of those 15 books, the profit goes straight to you guys, and then you are able to send that to Abdul in Sierra Leone. Obviously, the publisher is an American publisher. They're not gonna make any sacrifices, but at the end of the day, they've still got to pay for the materials, the paper, and what have you. So that's true. But because I'm able to support myself as a teacher in France, I'd rather this money that I made from these books was directed to you and then directed to Abdul, and that maybe is a better way of doing it. So the reason I'm here today is to persuade people that are watching this to buy these, to go to the website that I've got, buy a book, knowing that the money that they're spending is not going to me, it's going to a good cause. That's it.
Excellent. So what is your website address?
Oh, yeah. I spent a lot of money preparing this little document here, as you can see.
Fantastic. I like a man who's prepared.
DIY, we did say DIY.
Yeah, we did. Excellent stuff. That's great, man. Yeah, www.tonystowers.com.
That's it.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And on the top of the homepage, it's all written what you have to do. You click on the book, then you click on the red part. It takes you straight to the publisher. You buy it. You put it in the basket. You buy it. You pay. And I have to say that this American company, it's not Amazon, thankfully, because I hate those bastards.
Yeah, we're not very ethical, are we?
No, but Lulu, it's a small company, but they do a bloody good job, and they do good. The package, the product itself, is good quality, and it gets to you very quickly. So, I think it's a good company. It's not
Well, I
bad.
was pretty surprised because I ordered your My Black Book.
Yeah, the Black Album. Yeah,
Not Black Album, and that arrived pretty quickly.
yeah, it does. They're good. They're good for that. It's a very clever system that they've got. I think what basically happens is they've got individual printers in each country of the world where the books are available, and they just send the material to that individual printer by internet or by email, and then that printer in that country. So if you're buying a book like the Black Album, the printer is probably based in the UK. So all they have to do is publish the book off and send it during the post, which keeps the costs down. It's
Okay,
not a
cool.
bad system. Yeah.
Well, is the title of that book a nod towards any other famous writers?
What, the Black Album?
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to say Prince, wouldn't you?
All right. No, I can't remember the name of a guy. I had to study him at university, but he wrote a book called The Black Album.
Oh, did he? I don't know. No, I based it on Prince because Prince did a really good Black Album in the late 80s or early 90s, which he then denied all knowledge of. But of course, that just made it even more famous, and everybody wanted to listen to it. This is the one you're talking about, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you like to go reading from that?
It's not really a book. It's more, as you've probably seen, it's not really. There's no narrative in it. It's just that basically, I had a very good friend a few years ago. He was a really good friend of mine. We were very close, and in the 80s, we both went to London, and we had a great time. But he stayed on the rock and roll lifestyle path, even though he wasn't a rock and roll star. And I realized that if I didn't break our friendship, that I was going to go down the same road, I was going to end up an alcoholic. I was going to end up in a bad place, in a dark place. So I had to split our relationship up as friends. I quit London. I went back to the Northeast. I started writing again, and writing and art saved me. That saved my life. He stayed in London, continued to do the things he'd done for years. And in 2014, he died. And that was all brought about by his excess. And I regret not trying harder to save him. I should have done more. I didn't do more. So this to me was a way of saying, you know, when you, I mean, Eagle, you can back me up on this, I'm sure, but because of the ages that we both are. When we were growing up, there wasn't a lot of information about the effects of certain illegal substances and alcohol. It was all very much hand to mouth type of information. You know, we didn't know anything, and we found ourselves. Oh, I can't say we because I can't speak for you, but I found myself getting involved in things. I didn't realize what the consequences were until it was too late. You know, almost too late. So this book for me was a way of putting all the facts about the realities of certain legal and illegal substances, addictions, into one place, and hopefully, you know, educating people, informing people, trying to not let them go down the same path, you know, as my friend Malcolm did. But it's not really my forte. It's just a self-help book, if more.
Okay, good. Good. I mean, I'm one of these people because I've lost friends to drugs and stuff, and I mean, I come from that generation, you know, where fuck it, let's party.
Yeah, there was no consequence about tomorrow, but there is
No.
a tomorrow, as we know. There is a tomorrow.
There is, yeah. And I mean, even the Who got old.
Yeah,
But I think, you know, for me, if I'd legalise everything and put the money into, you know, to education of you take this, you might have a good time, but it might fuck you up in this way.
yeah.
Rather than lock people up and you know, and treat them as criminals, because I don't think the criminals just get into bad shit because stuff's addictive, and some people have got an addictive personality.
Yeah. I also used writing and theatre plays to explore my life in London, and I wrote a play called My Brother Jake in '97, which played 35 times to different secondary schools, and it was all about drug awareness, because in '97 Tony Blair got into power, and the politics changed, and the yeah, and the policy was more telling. It wasn't prior to that. It was like saying to kids, "Don't do this, don't do that." But the policy after '97 was more, well, if you're going to do that, this is what might happen.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? So that was good for me, because I was able to use writing and theatre to explore things that I'd experienced myself in London. And London isn't everybody's cup of tea. Some people can, you know, living in a big city like I did, isn't everybody's cup of tea. And you need to be thick-skinned and you need to be tough to often to deal with it. And I was just a naive kid from a small town, and you know, I thought I was in the driving seat, but in reality, I was the passenger for 10 years. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was lucky to get out.
Well, with myself, I mean, I got into everything, but I mean, I was a country boy. I mean, I come from the Fens, but yeah, a lot of stuff has fucked a lot of people up who I've loved. So I guess I'm in a similar situation to you.
Yeah, and there was not only the oh, I don't know what I did with it now. Yeah, there wasn't only the Black Album, but there was also this Killing It.
Okay.
Yeah, which is I quit smoking in 2012, May the 30th, 2012. Tobacco. I haven't smoked tobacco since. And Alan Carr wrote the best book about quitting smoking. I would never take that crown away from Alan Carr, but it really helps to write, to explore yourself and issues that you might be having and ways that you deal with things. So for me, writing is always a way of exploring how I feel about things. And Killing It is a book to help people to stop smoking by thinking about it in a different way. That's all.
Okay. Yeah, I gave up myself for 6 years, but smoking has always been what my defence, you know, my defence. As soon as something goes wrong, as soon as there's a crisis, I need a cigarette. that was still there after 6 years. So it's not an easy thing, but addiction never is.
Yeah, but I'm not going to go on about that with you here now online. What you do with your life and what you do with your body is up to you. But I found a way of dealing with it by writing a book, which is basically killing it. And the it is the demon inside all of us, which tempts us to do things we know are wrong for us, are bad for us. And I think we've all got that demon inside us. And in reality, the killing it, you can't kill it. All you can do is lock it in a cage and keep the key in your pocket, and try and keep it under control. That's how I think about it. So killing it is a bit of a misnomer. It's more like taming it more than anything.
Okay, cool. Have you got anything else to read to us? Because yeah, really enjoyed the last reading.
Yes, I do. Yes, a body of work.
Which is the name of one of your Facebook groups as well, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the poetry group. Yeah, I always liked the if I had ever been a rock and roll star, I wish I had been. Now going back, I would have made different choices. I think my group would have been called The Body. I know it's a bit posy and a bit wankerish, but that would have been the group, The Body. But I didn't become a rock and roll star. I became a.
There's been a couple of bands called The Body as well, so you
so it's
sit out on that one.
It's not going to be original, is it? This is a bit name dropping. A body of work is about. It's something I wrote to get my life in perspective when I moved out of London and came back to the Northeast in 1996. And it was, I went to drama school in London in 1985. And I went literally from being on the dole in a small northeastern town, absolutely, completely broke, just living on from hand to mouth day after day, to suddenly being in one of the best drama schools in the world. And I had a real problem dealing with that shift, that transition. It was a real problem for me, because I'd never, nobody had ever, I was 21 years old and nobody had ever told me I was ever good at anything. Nobody had ever said you're good at anything. And I was, and I thought that would change. It didn't. Anyway, this is chapter 3. It's a bit of a name drop, I'm afraid, but it's not meant to be boastful, but it's just the reality that I come from. That's why I wanted to mention it.
Okay, yeah, good.
Chapter 3. In September 1985, I sat on a chair in a well-lit room with one wall of windows, with a bar for dancers and a scrubbed parquet floor, with 26 or so other men and women, mostly around my age. We were on the second floor of a beautiful old converted building called the Embassy Theatre, just around the corner from Swiss Cottage tube station. The director introduced himself. It may have been Tony Falkingham or David Terence, then asked us to say our names one by one and where we were from. I was last. Anna Mazzotti, Italy. Archie Whiteley, Australia. James Purefoy, England. Celia Noble, London. John Johnson, Boston, United States. Ariane Brandt, New York. James Nesbitt, Coleraine. Paul Corrigan, London. Sarah Stewart, Canada. Carol Starks, Lancashire. Shura Greenberg, London. Steve Payne, Oxford. Ossé Bentil, London. Rexy Harrison, Northampton. Jason Isaacs, London. Virginia Hammer, Boston, United States. Erica Grant, Australia and London. Phil McDermott, London. Kerry Piers, Sweden. Eric Hershenson, United States. Lucinda Galloway, London. Jared Harris, London. Peter Darling, London. Ashley Russell, London. Mark Anstey, London. Emma Hewitt, London. Jason Morell, London. And finally, Tony Stowers, Darlington. That day was a big shock to my uncultured self. A week prior to that, I'd lived in a council flat in a small northern town on the Dole and been in constant trouble, thanks to the chemistry of creative and destructive personalities of that sometimes cold and mean environment. And in retrospect, I was probably one of the most insecure men there and had a chip on my shoulder the size of Ben Nevis. Now I was cast as a highly privileged student in an international blockbuster called London Drama School for 3 years with no previous experience.
Right, sounds daunting, Tony, to say the least.
Yeah, well, it was all right, but it was a good book to write because it gets a lot of stuff out of your system, and I think writing a book and putting it all in these pages between two covers made me step back and think, hang on a minute, that's not bad. In fact, you know, that's not bad. I haven't done too badly at all, relatively speaking. You know, so that for me is like a kind of autobiography, but at the same time, it's not just about celebrity and fame. It's about creating something from nothing. I went back to the Northeast from London in 1996, and I had nothing. I had a suitcase, I had nothing. And in those 10 years, I created theatre companies, I employed 50 people, I took thousands of pounds in funding from various sources, the Arts Council, etc. And I went out and did it, and I worked and I wrote shows and I directed them, and I had the most 10 brilliant creative years of my life. And I did it from nothing, and it all went into this book, a body of work. So I'm really proud of that. You know?
Excellent. Mention a lot about northeast of England and Darlington. You're not living there now, are you? And how did you end up in France?
In the mid '90s, as I said, I was living in London, and I had a girlfriend at that time who was French, and we ended up living together for 6 years until the year 2000. And obviously, because she was French, we came to France a lot for visits to her family. And I kept thinking, wow, what a great place. Wouldn't it be great if I could live here and work here, you know? But at that time, I wasn't a teacher. I was an actor, and I'd run a theatre company, and that's what I was doing. Anyway, in the year 2001, with this ex-girlfriend becoming an ex-girlfriend, I married a lady in England, and my stepson, her son, she just one day, we were living in Durham, and one day she just said, to hell with this, let's sell the house and go live in France. So we came to France, and we lived here for 9 months. It didn't work because she had difficulty with the language, which was one thing. I wasn't prepared for it at all. And my stepson was diagnosed dyslexic. And that needed to be treated urgently. So we had to go back to England. Long story short, 2006, I find myself divorced. I find myself with an opportunity to try and realize what I couldn't realize with my family. I came to France on the 11th of July 2006 with 2 suitcases, £2,000 in my pocket, and a passport. And the idea was just to come for a few months and have a break and, you know, recover from divorce, etc. But I'd been here 2 months, staying with friends, was walking down the street one day, and this woman said, Monsieur Stowers, Monsieur Stowers. And I turned, and I didn't know who she was. And she said, you don't remember me, do you? And I said, no, I don't remember you. She said, 2 years ago, you came to our school and you did a show for the kids to promote English language in one of my French schools. And I said, oh, right, okay. How are you? Blah, blah, blah. And then she said, do you want a job? And I just didn't hesitate. I just said, yeah, great. So she gave me a job on the spot, teaching English to year 5 students in a primary school. And I had that job for 9 months. It didn't make a lot of money for me, but it got my foot in the door. And I suddenly realized that teaching, it sounds, it's difficult to explain if you're not actually living in France, but a lot of people who teach English in France, a lot of people say it's a demeaning job, it's a rubbish job, it's just something you do just to pay the rent until you get something better. But I absolutely love teaching. I think it's a brilliant job. I've always loved teaching. And suddenly at the age of 42, which I was when I came here, I discovered a new career for myself. And obviously, in order to stay in a country that doesn't speak English, then I needed a profession which was sellable, and one thing I think that which British people forget sometimes, that the biggest export that Britain has is English language. It's the biggest export. And I haven't stopped since I got here for 15 years. I've always been in work. I've worked for a dozen different companies. I've worked in the school system. I've managed to get my degree here in Nantes, where I live now, at the university. People ring me up and say, we've heard of you, and they offer me a job. And it just makes you feel brilliant. It makes you feel like you're respected and you're wanted. And it's a great feeling. It's a lovely feeling. And teaching is just brilliant. I love it. I think it's a very creative job. And I try to challenge the system. The system in France is very orthodox. It's very adult orientated. They forget how to think like children. So I try to take all my experience that I had with kids when I was working in England in theatre and drama, and I try to teach English to my French students in a different way, in a more lively, interactive way, And again, it comes back to that, everybody has innate talents. You just got to find a key. You've got to get the key to open the door and unlock those talents, and that's what it's all about,
Well, I could talk to you all day, Tony, but sadly we're running out of time, mate. Any last words before I kill you?
Well, can I just very quickly go through these? I got these out of my library in my bookcase today, so I'd like to go through them one by one. All these books, if you buy one of these books, the money goes straight to charity. So the first is Killing It. The second is Fragments, which is short stories, which came out about last week. Theatre plays 5. There are 5 plays in this book. Volume 4, there are 5 plays in this book. Volume 3, there are 6 plays in this book. Volume 2, there are 5 plays in this book, which are all for young audiences and kids, as I said before. And plays 1, which has 6 plays in it, which also features a very young Mark Gatiss, whose name I'm sure you know. He was 19, I was 17, and I gave him his first job in one of my theatre plays, which was back in 1983. And finally, almost there, Gary, almost there, Eagle. Hooray for Ray, which is a book about my teaching English experiences here in France since 2006. A body of work you've already seen. The Apprentice, which was which was 1981 to 1985, which was learning how to be a writer and how to be a punk. And you can see from that picture there, very similar to Eagle there, similar type of haircut.
A little bit older, that guy looks than me, I think.
A little bit older. All This Is Mine was the first novel I wrote. It was written on a typewriter in a squat in Hackney in 1994. All my mates were going out getting stoned and drunk, and I was sat at the typewriter writing my book. Voila, that's about it.
Thanks for being on, Tony. It was a pleasure to speak to you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no worries, man. And this will be going out at some point. So the end of February, we'll be putting it out.
Buy those books. Help Abdul help people.